So a joint press announcement will soon be convened. And as a matter of simultaneous translation, as you can see,
well there. Great. Wow.
Lori Graham, CBC, first, please.
Hello, Prime Minister. Good afternoon. In relation to the agreement that you signed today, Japan is notoriously protectionist, but it seems if you do want to diversify Canada's economy, you need Japan, you need this deal. Even a recent study would suggest there's a lot for us to gain. I'm wondering, given its protective nature, what will you be asking of Japan, and in turn, what do you think they'll be asking of us?
First of all, you're correct in observing that historically the Japanese, I don't know if protection is the right word, but they certainly have been reluctant to engage in the kind of negotiations we've now committed to engage in. So getting an agreement to move forward on free trade discussions is a major step forward. We did the complementary study. You know, I won't get into details. There's obviously a number of areas where Canada has potential advantages to seek. There will be areas where we have defensive interests, as is always the case in trade negotiations. But look, Japan is the world's third largest economy, and the potential for increased trade between us that will create jobs and growth and long-term prosperity is really enormous. So this is a very significant step forward in terms of filling out our trade agenda.
Next question, prochaine question, Danielle Hamamjan, CTV.
Good afternoon. My question pertains to the auto industry, Prime Minister, which is obviously vehemently opposed to a free trade deal with South Korea, with Japan. When we look to the past, they were hard hit by the original free trade deals with the US. How do you reassure the Canadian auto industry that a free trade deal with Japan is not going to cause as much damage en français également, s'il vous plaît?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't agree with that assessment. I think historically our trade with the United States is really a vital lifeline of the auto industry in Canada. So I wouldn't agree with the preamble to that question. Look, we understand there are some defensive interests. At the same time, we don't sell many autos to Japan, so one would hope that we could raise the potential of that as well. Look, we will make sure when we sit around the table, as we do in all these negotiations, that we try and get a deal that's not just good for the Canadian economy as a whole, but protects all of our various sectors. That's our ambition, but in the end, we have to do what's best for the entire Canadian economy.
Next question, prochaine question, Andrew Mayeda, Bloomberg.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. You're talking about trade and investment this week, but there are some who say that since the potash deal, there is some uncertainty about exactly what's an acceptable foreign takeover for your government. I wonder if you can comment on that, and then more specifically on Glencore's bid for Viterra. Some analysts have said that it presents fewer difficulties for your government because it's not as much of a strategic asset. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, as long as we have a foreign investment review process in Canada, there will always be some degree of uncertainty. We are committed to the concept. We're committed to having foreign investment in Canada, but we're also committed to the concept that investment has to be reviewed, and we have to assure ourselves that it's in the best interest of this country. Historically, only 2 foreign investments have ever been turned down. So I think that indicates both our general openness to foreign investment, but also our determination to protect the national interests when there are particular investments that don't further that interest, and those are under very rare and very particular circumstances. And I think in both cases, it's not difficult to discern what the factors were in that particular decision. In the case of Viterra, look, I would just note, first of all, you know, I can't really say a lot about this. This is going to go forward to various review processes, investment process. There's also the competition process. I just say a couple of things. First of all, my understanding of the deal is that many of the assets will actually remain in Canadian hands. So I'm not sure it really would be categorized at this point as primarily a foreign investment. But I think the most important thing is that it does show, with the reforms we're making to the grain sector, how much interest there is now in the expansion of the grain sector and the agricultural sector in Canada. And I think that's a tremendously good thing. I think it's generally welcomed by farmers, and our main concern is always that farmers will retain choice in terms of their marketing options going forward.
Prochaine question, next question, Murray Brewster, CP.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. As you probably know by now, Mr. Thomas Mulcair has been elected as the new leader of the NDP. Some of the delegates at the NDP convention said that they voted for him because they, quote, wanted to take a chunk out of you. I'm wondering what you think, what kind of opponent Mr. Mulcair is going to be.
Look, all I'll say in that is we will see. Today's obviously a good day for Mr. Mulcair. You know, I've been through these before. Leadership processes are long and they're difficult, and that was the case for this one. So obviously I want to congratulate Mr. Mulcair on his victory, and I look forward to interacting with him in the years to come.
Last question, dernière question, Tom Perry, CBC.
Prime Minister, we've got a budget coming up in the next few days. A lot of concern about the cuts that are going to have to be made to balance the budget. Your finance minister, though, has said that they may not be as draconian as people are fearing. What should Canadians be expecting in the upcoming budget?
Well, first of all, in terms of the government's fiscal targets and in terms of its expenditure reduction targets, we were pretty clear about those things in the campaign, and that's the mandate we're pursuing. Look, we will be making finding some economies in government spending going forward, but we'll also be making some very significant investments and changes to ensure the growth of the Canadian economy in the future, to ensure that we continue to create jobs and that we have long-term prosperity and sustainability of our social programs. So I can't say much beyond that. Obviously, I can't preempt the Minister of Finance. He'll speak this week. He'll have a lot of good and interesting things to say. But as I said at the outset, I think generally speaking, particularly in the subject you asked about, the actions the government will be taking will be within the expectations we set during the election campaign.